The giants ruled the world, and people were more like servants than equal people, but then everything suddenly changed and the recent servants searched for and destroyed a few of the surviving giants. Dwarfs, people, ended up on top of the world and carefully erased any mention of the former gentleman giants from history. In the article, I collected very interesting few of the survivors, historical materials on which there is a race of giants, and moreover, the matter is not even limited to giants. There are people, plants, and mermaids, and dragons, moreover, of several species, and seahorses. Dragons, holy giants with wolf heads, and much more. Giant footprints left right at the entrance to the temple of Ain Dara indicate the importance and mystery of this place. These footprints are reminiscent of a long-forgotten time when gods walked among people, and perhaps only so that future generations do not forget and deny the time when giants walked among us. The ruins of the once prominent structure lie just west of the Syrian village of Ain Dara, northwest of Aleppo. They first attracted attention in 1955, when a huge basalt lion was accidentally discovered in the area. It stood there as a proud reminder of the ancient culture, so archaeologists soon became interested in it. Excavations continued from 1980 to 1985, and what they found bore similarities to the biblical Temple of Solomon, although it was later revealed that they were not the same buildings. The similarity between the temple at Ain Dar and the temple described in the Bible is truly striking. Both buildings were erected on a huge artificial platform built on the highest point of their respective cities. The platform on which the temple stood was guarded on all sides by lions, sphinxes, heavenly gods and other mystical creatures with long claws, from which only paws remained, and they were all carved from large blocks of basalt. One could get into the temple premises by climbing a colossal staircase, on both sides of which stood a sphinx and two lions. Then one could get into the middle room, followed by the main hall, at the end of which was the inner sanctuary, decorated with cult statues. One of the more interesting aspects of the Ain Dara temple are the footprints, about 1 meter long, engraved on the hard stone floor at the entrance to the temple. One pair of footprints is on the floor in front of the entrance, and the second print is located at a distance of about 9 meters, right at the entrance to the main hall. Further in the article, I will post ancient engravings, illustrations, etc., which depict a race of giants that lived on Earth at the same time as people, but people in that period of history were only servants. We peak of the animal world, only when its real owners disappeared from the face of the earth. Portrait of King Rajasingh II of Kandy, 1608 to 1687. Rajasingha II reigned from 1635 to the 6th of December 1687. It would take a significant jump of 9 meters to get from one track to another, or a normal step if taken by a giant of about 20 meters tall. The giant footprints carried the message of our ancestors about giant humanoid beings to our times, and they may serve as a reminder of these ancient ones, who may have been the deities worshipped in this temple. Samson and Leo. Wall painting, circa 350 to 400. Catacombs of Via Latina, Rome. It is believed that the Temple of Ain Dara was erected at the beginning of the Iron Age, somewhere between 1300 and 1000 BC. It was expanded by the Syro-Hittites, a group of peoples that emerged after the fall of the Hittite Empire. The painting depicts a vision of Blessed Clara of Rimini, who led a pious life of self-denial and good deeds, died 1326. She kneels on the left, and Christ, showing his wounds, appears on the right with the apostles. He gives St. John the Evangelist a book for her with the inscription, "My peace I give you. My world, I leave you." They became the dominant power in the eastern Mediterranean region until they perished at the hands of the Neo-Assyrian Empire in the late 8th century BC. They had a great cultural influence left by ancient Mesopotamia and the Sumerians. Although there is a difference of millennia in the chronology of these peoples, the symbols and statues, bas-reliefs engraved on the walls of the temples of both civilizations, are very similar. Presentation of Mary. Brothers of Limburg 1385 to 1416. The giant meter footprints found in the Temple of Ain Dara may be the imprints, or their sculptural visualization, of the gods. These mystical rulers are described in the Sumerian king list as mythical beings from before the flood until the creation of mankind. Presentation of Mary and her engagement. This fresco is the most famous work of Taddeo Gaddi. Only a few of them are officially attested by modern history, although their names and kingship are engraved on Sumerian artifacts. Marriage of the Virgin, 1486–90 by Domenico Ghirlandaio. It is possible that the Syro-Hittites carried images of their gods with them and built temples in honor of them. Knowing that the impending doom of their culture was inevitable, they left behind clues that reminded them of these gigantic rulers and teachers, whom they considered their creators. Tornabuoni Chapel, a chapel in the Florentine church of Santa Maria Novella, decorated with frescoes by Domenico Ghirlandaio, commissioned by Giovanni Tornabuoni. Be that as it may, the Temple of Ain Dara adds another piece to the puzzle of forgotten human history. Betrothal of Jason and Medea, 1487. When you look at all these old drawings and paintings, pay attention to the height of the people who are depicted there and to the objects and animals around them. Then you can immediately see that the giants are depicted on them, and the people among them are rather servants than equal people. Portuguese family in Hormuz. The houses were deliberately flooded due to the heat. Frontispiece to the state and government of the great Khan Katai, emperor of the Tatars. Circa 1410 to 1412 Kublai Khan, 1215 to 1294, also known as Emperor Shizu Yuan, was the fifth Khan emperor of the Mongol Empire, reigning from 1260 to 1294, although this was a nominal position after the division of the empire. He also founded the Yuan dynasty in China in 1271 and reigned as the first Yuan emperor until his death in 1294. Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, Mausoleum's tomb built by his widow Artemis. Engraving by Philips Gale after Martin van Heemskerk, 1572. The crowd watches the night with the giant captured by him. Illustration from the story of Orlando Furioso. Jack the Giant Killer is a Cornish tale and legend about a young man who killed several bad giants during the reign of King Arthur. The tale is characterized by violence, blood and bloodshed. Giants are seen in Cornish folklore, Breton mythology and Welsh bardic lore. In this case we are dealing with King Alfred. Vintage engraving, seen from George Cruikshank's story, Jack the Killer. Augustine of Hippo, 354–430. Also known as Saint Augustine, was a theologian, philosopher, and bishop of Hippo Regia in Numidia, Roman North Africa. His writings influenced the development of Western philosophy and Western Christianity, and he is considered one of the most important fathers of the Latin Church in the patristic period. Among his many important works are the City of God, on Christian doctrine, and Confessions. Saint Modald, also known as Romuald, was the Frankish Archbishop of Trier from 626 to 645. He is the patron saint of the Reichsabtei of Helmershausen, and his liturgical feast is celebrated on the 12th of May. Apollonio di Giovanni, The Adventures of Odysseus, 1435 to 1440, cassette facade, tempera on panel. Patagonians in 1764. This engraving depicts a meeting of a European officer with a giant Patagonian chief. Tales of a giant race of people who lived in what is now Argentina and Chile first appeared in Antonio Pigafetta's handwritten account of Magellan's 1522 circumnavigation of the world. Once we suddenly saw a naked man of gigantic stature on the seashore. Port, dancing, singing and dust on the head. The Captain General, i.e. Magellan, sent one of our men to the giant so that he could perform the same actions as in a sign of peace. Years later, their existence was confirmed by Sir Francis Drake, Anthony Niwet and William Adams. Stuttgart. Card game, Upper Rhine circa 1430. The young giantess Mademoiselle Lapierre, 19 years. Royal Palace. The panel by Jan van Eyck is dedicated to pilgrims, who were an important feature of medieval religiosity. They are led by Saint Christopher, the patron saint of pilgrims and travelers, and, according to legend, he was a giant. Next to him stands a pilgrim with the badges of the three great pilgrims, Roman Compostela and Jerusalem. Smoking advice of Friedrich Wilhelm I of Prussia, c.1737. Priesthood of the Virgin Mary. Puy of Amiens, 1438. Merlin is assisted by a giant at Stonehenge, circa 1150 AD. The Fall of the Giants from Mount Olympus by Giulio Romano. Palazzo del Te, Mantua, Italy, 1530 to 1532. This engraving is based on the exploits of the Italian explorer Amerigo Vespucci. The sketch and quote are from a letter written about the giant natives of Tierra del Fuego, circa 1499 to 1500. Cornelius Magrat, 1736 to 1760. Cornelius Magrat, 1736 to 1760, was an Irish giant born in Tipperary. In 1752 he came to Cork for salt water treatment to relieve the pain caused by his rapid growth. While there, many urged him to expose himself for pay. In January 1753, he was already a huge star in London, England, as the press noted. A young man just arrived in this city from Ireland, who has lately been mentioned in the newspapers as the most extraordinary work in nature. Aristocrats and nobles who daily resort to it to have the most grandiose and gigantic form, aka boy, and is the only representative in the world of the ancient and majestic giants of this kingdom. He's 7'3", no shoes. His wrist is 1/4 of a yard and an inch. He is vastly superior to the Swede Cain in the correct proportions of his limbs. This is the most correct and proportional figure that has ever been seen. He was 16 years old. March 10 last year, and he can be seen at the Peacock in Charing Cross from 8 in the morning until 10 at night. Giant Daniel Cahanis was reportedly able to light his pipe with a street lamp. Once he patted someone reassuringly on the back, after which he almost had to be resuscitated. For a long time, very large feet were called Cain feet. It is known for sure that he came from Finland, was 2.60 meters tall and died in Haarlem in 1749 at the age of 46. Henry Blacker, Giant Thompson states that, he was visited several times by William, Duke of Cumberland, who himself was a very tall man, and this engraving shows the Duke among the visitors. Mr. Henry Blacker, a British giant, was born near Cookfield in Sussex in 1724. Considered to be the tallest man ever seen in England, at 7 feet 4 inches. Grand Vizier Ibrahim Pasha, his giants and tiny French Vicomte d'Andresle, French ambassador with retinue, presented to the Grand Vizier Ibrahim Pasha on October 10, 1724. Jean-Baptiste Vanmore, a painting depicting a captive giraffe from the tomb of Remir, lived under the pharaohs Thutmose III and Amenhotep II. Hercules carries the columns of Gaza. Sebald Bayham, the legendary strongman Hercules, was born from the god Zeus and a mortal named Alcmene. This union so angered Zeus's wife Hera that she made the hero's life almost unbearable. Her anger led him to undertake a series of tasks known as the 12 Labors of Hercules. One mission brings Hercules to Erythea to steal the cattle of the monstrous Geryon. Along the way, Hercules erected huge rocks or pillars near the Strait of Gibraltar. According to Greek mythology, the Pygmies once met Hercules, and, climbing on the sleeping hero, they tried to tie him up, but when he got up, they fell. Plate from the collection of Les Images aux Tableaux de Plate Peinture des deux Philostrates Sophistes Grecs by Blaise de Vigenère, Paris, 1615. Found in the collection of Jean-Claude Carrière. Evil Hercules by Antoine Caron, 17th century. Perseus and Atlas. Perseus on the right, in the shadow of Atlas, shows the head of Medusa in his left hand. In his right hand he holds a sword. On the left, Atlas, turned to stone, looking at Perseus below, with a scepter in his right hand, his left hand on his hip, his body turned into a mountain. 1641. Robert Hales, aka the Norfolk giant Robert Hales, was born in some sources as 1813, in others as 1820. He was born and raised in Great Yarmouth, Norfolk, and was the largest member of a large family of big people.